Hello and welcome to the Be Glad movement. My name's Pollyanna and I'm on a mission to bring you as many stories as possible of good coming out of bad and reasons to be glad. And today I'm joined by Leanne. Say hello, Leanne.
Hey.
Thanks so much for joining us tonight. I'm gonna let you just dive straight in and tell your story. So go for it.
So first of all, just let me say a big thank you to you for letting me come on here, and I think it's amazing what you're doing.
Oh, thank you.
So, yeah, I'll just dive straight in.
Cool.
So my games when I was just a little girl, and you probably see me like smiling and things through even like the worst parts now, but that's just because I've got over that, and when you're nervous, you kind of tend to smile a bit anyway.
Uh-huh.
So, it starts when I was 6 years old. And at the time, I had no idea at all what was going on. I just knew I absolutely hated it. And my memories, the strongest memories I have, is going to school and being told at school that I was having lunch at home. And having lunch at home usually meant that he would be there. So he was my stepdad at the time. So my parents, a lot of people tend to blame this kind of thing on parents, but to me, it had nothing to do with them because literally nobody knew. So I don't blame my mum, or my dad wasn't present at the time. He was back in the UK. I was in Portugal, by the way.
Right.
I was at school and I've been told again, are you having a home lunch today? So I would literally wander around the streets and then go back to school hungry. Or I'd go to the cafe and run up a tab and then go and suffer the consequences of just, like being told off, having a few slaps, and that was a lot better than obviously getting home. And it wasn't obviously until I was older that I realised that I was a victim of sexual abuse, a child. And it didn't happen that many times because I actually got really, really good at hiding from him. And I got really good at making sure that I was always present with somebody else. So I wouldn't be at home unless I knew my mum was going to be there. I wouldn't go anywhere that I knew I'd be left on my own with him.
Right.
He actually at the time told me that if I open my mouth to anybody, that everybody would be, that I was already being, everybody would want to punish me more, and my mum would just leave. And I absolutely always adored my mum, so that to me, it made me keep my mouth shut.
Right.
And so when my mum left him, it was a big, how can I say it? I'm getting all mixed up in Portuguese and English now. It was really, really good for me when my mum left him, and she couldn't understand why I was so happy about that. But he wasn't. But I think she really needed to leave him as well because he was just a horrible person. He used to beat her up regularly as well.
Oh,
yes, I had to go. I grew up seeing that happen a lot as well, and as my story progresses, you'll realise that I do really believe now in that things happen because of the way your subconscious is programmed. So obviously, I grew up happening to me. I grew up seeing my mum, being really abused as well. But it wasn't all bad. I did have a really good childhood as well with my brother. We were brought up in Portugal, so we had a lot of freedom. So there were a lot of happy times as well. It wasn't, all bad. So this went on when I was 6 to when I was about 9 when my mum left him. And we moved back to the UK. And I kind of grew up always a bit reserved. I wasn't very confident. In the UK, I'd always hide. Like when you go through your first boyfriends, I didn't have any because I would always make sure that I was nowhere near boys.
Oh.
Near them. I'd get so embarrassed. I just didn't feel confident. So I moved back to Portugal, and when I was 18, I got my first boyfriend. So I thought he was the one, like you do. I was completely in love. And I actually spent 4 years with him, but again, it was 4 years of hell. And I really think it was kind of what I attracted from when I was younger. So I was 18 till I was 22 with him, and he used to beat me up on a regular basis.
Oh no.
It was really badly, like mental abuse as well. He used to always tell me that I was lucky that he'd want me because nobody else would. And I was in a place that I really believed that as well. But I've always been a kind of person that from the outside, I'm always smiling. So nobody knew that anything was wrong. It was something that I would keep to myself.
Right.
And the actual abuse got so bad that I didn't know how to release it. I actually started self-harming. So hide, I would cut my arms and my legs, and I'd always do it on places that nobody would see again. I was really, really good at hiding things.
Yeah.
So when I was about 21, 22, it was 22, we had this big argument. And then I just broke down. So I actually told my mum and my brother what was going on, not only in the relationship, I actually told them what had gone on previously before. And the
Right.
reason it was for so long still was I told this partner of mine at the time, who was the first person I'd ever told them what had happened to me as a child. And they actually told me that I deserved it, or I'd done something to deserve it.
What?
So, yeah, this was one of the reasons that then I progressed on to self-harming, because I just felt like a waste of space. I really hated myself. I didn't know why I existed. I was just going through all this turmoil that you do as a teenager anyway.
Yeah.
So after I told my mum, I kind of was the wake-up call, so I need to leave this relationship. So I managed to get out of that, and I vowed that nobody would ever treat me like that ever again. And they didn't to such an extent, but because I was still in this thing of self-hating and didn't love myself, and I stopped self-harming at that point. That was the last time I ever did that, when I spoke to my mum about it. And I got into new relationships, but I always kind of let people walk all over me. I think I got into this of needed to be loved so much that I'd just accept anything just to say that I had somebody by my side, and again pretend that everything was all rosy.
Right.
My first daughter was born, and that kind of brought a new strength to me as well. And I walked out of the relationship at that time that I was always, again, it wasn't abusive physically, but it was very mentally abusive, always putting me down, always making me feel small. And so I walked away from that relationship. I was constantly getting cheated on as well, and knew about it, but I was always trying to figure out reasons that it was my fault and not his fault. It was me that, it was my fault he was doing what he was doing. So again, I stayed in the relationship for about 4 years. And once my daughter was born, she was about 10 months, I thought, no, she needs to grow up knowing that there's more to life than these kind of relationships. So and very, very quickly, again, I think it's this thing of needing to be with somebody, needing to be loved at the time. I felt like I went into a relationship with who was my best friend for 10 years. So I thought, he knows me so well, this has to be it. He would never, ever, ever hurt me.
Yeah. Oh no.
So yeah, we had a little second boy. So I had a little boy with him. And the relationship started going very, very wrong. And I think 2007, I've got the kids coming in there.
That's all right.
And the child, you're gonna have to wait just 2 minutes, okay? Mummy's working. Can you go in the bedroom, and I'll come back in a minute, okay? So it's so sunny, and they don't go to bed early.
Don't worry at all.
Okay, so where was I? Second little one. Oh, they're all here. Come on, boys, because Mummy's talking about things now. Come on, go into the bedroom.
Hi.
Hello. Come on. Go and play, and I'll be back soon. Now be nice to each other. Sorry.
Don't worry at all.
Okay, so 2013 was really I think was a big turning point for me, although a lot of things went wrong. So my dad had just rung me and told me he was moving back to Portugal, and I'd had a big moment of my life without him. So although he had a lot of issues himself, he loved me a lot, and I always looked up to him a lot, no matter what he went through.
Yeah.
So when he was coming out and he wanted to be near the grandkids, I was so happy about that. So he came over, and he came over in April, and then by the 20th of June that same year, we lost him to lung cancer.
Oh.
So, I get emotional about this, but the whole 6 weeks he was with us, it was basically just watching his health get worse and worse and worse.
Oh, how awful for you.
It was one of those moments that you kind of realise that, life really is short, and you never know what's going to happen. I mean, I'm not sure whether he knew he was ill beforehand, but for us, it was just such a shock because it was so quick.
Right.
And I was sitting on the hospital floor just in floods of tears, thinking there's got to be more than this. My life just seems to be bombarded constantly with story after story. So I went back home, and I knew my relationship was in a mess as well again, but I was in just a haze. I was sorting out the funeral. My health as well was at rock bottom, but I was hiding it. I suffer with ulcerative colitis, or I used to suffer really badly with ulcerative colitis, and it was at the point where by 12 o'clock I couldn't function anymore. So I had a hair extension business at the time, so I used to get my customers to come to me, and I'd tell them that I had the kids at home, but really it was because I needed to be close to the toilet, because if I needed to go, I needed to go.
Right.
So all this was happening, and then one day I just realised I have to go to the hospital because I really couldn't function anymore. And I thought they'd just give me some pills and send me on my way, but when I got there, I could see by the nurse's face that things were a lot worse than I thought they were.
Right.
I was in for 4 weeks. They told me that from my blood I should have been in a coma, that I shouldn't have even been alive. I shouldn't have been,
Wow.
because my blood was so low that I should have been in a coma. So my
Crikey.
really at point bottom this at that point. And so at the time I was still listening to the doctors, I was still taking all the pills, I was really drugged up to my eyeballs with 14 tablets a day. So I went home after 4 weeks later, and I knew I had to face the relationship issues. So I remember having this big debate with him, saying, I know you're cheating on me, and he denied it all. And then he said to me, but even if I was, I know that you wouldn't leave me. Even if I tell you I was, you wouldn't leave me. So that
Crikey.
kind of again of like, what am I doing to myself? So that same day when he got home from work, I'd already gone. I'd rented a house. Unfortunately, the only house I could find was next door to where we used to live, where everything happened as a child. So I kind of put that to the side and thought I just need to get out.
Yeah.
I was really, really depressed at the time. I'd locked myself in the bathroom and cried so the kids couldn't see me. And I just remember thinking, if only I could find out who it was who was cheating, maybe I could change myself and, be the person you wanted to be with, just all those crazy thoughts that you can. And I know
Yeah.
when you're out of it, you think it's crazy, but when you're in that situation, it's just so hard.
Sure.
And my friend, she'd like, comfort me. I'd ring her every day, and just somebody to talk to. And then I actually found out that it was her that cheating on me. So no, it should be. I could write a story better than EastEnders.
Oh
So
my
they've
goodness.
been each other before my little boy was born. So it'd been going on for a long, long time. And then I kind of blamed myself again and begged him to take me back and we could work things out. And he decided we'd come back to the UK. And I could see then that he was willing to give it another go. So we
Okay.
moved back to the UK, took him back. Crazy, I know, but at the time it felt like the right thing to do. And our third little one came along. So my third little boy came along. And story gets a little bit better now. I actually found my mum had constantly been telling me about network marketing as a way to get extra money and just do something different and self-development. And I would never ever listen. But it got to
Right.
the point that I had 3 kids now, and I was getting more confined to having to do something around them, and not because I'd never wanted to leave. I'd always decided that I'd never leave them in the nursery. I wanted to be that mum at home.
Uh-huh.
So I decided to give it a go. And for the first few years, I didn't really build a business. I was just so in awe of the stories of the women that had, got over things, and lots of stories similar to mine. So I delved into self-development. I was on this constant growth path. And as I grew, the relationship we got further apart because I think he could see she's actually stepping into herself now.
Right. Yeah.
Then it got to the one day, he on a regular basis, he would come home quite drunk. And he'd fallen asleep with the computer on, and I heard this ping, and it was that, do I look at the messages? Do I not? His Facebook's open. Should I do it?
Uh,
I'll open the messages, and we'd actually planned to come on a family holiday back to Portugal. And the conversation was basically him really upset with another girl because she'd fallen pregnant and he wanted to see her, and all this crazy stuff. And we'd just had our little boy.
oh
And
my goodness.
the big thing, it was with my ex-best friend. It was with her younger sister.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So then at this point, I thought, you know what, I really, really have to do something now. And I've grown a lot since the last time. And I just got all these clothes together. It was one of those lovely days in England where it's absolutely lashing it down with rain. And I put garden.
Good for you.
Yeah, so he woke up and he's like, what's going on? And that was the last argument we ever had because I decided that's enough. Really, it's enough of being walked all over. And so mindset-wise, I'd really got on top of myself and I'd really decided this time it's time for me. And I'd learned that it has to be me that has to love myself and not depend on somebody else. So started becoming more stronger that way.
Right.
But then health that was suffering again. And I honestly do believe now that health is related to how we're feeling inside. We kind of bring health problems on ourselves because we don't realize how connected they are.
Sure.
So,
Oh look.
Okay. So my health started really suffering again. My ulcerative colitis was flaring up badly again. And I woke up one day thinking it was just the flu with like flu symptoms, just aching from head to toe. And a few days later, it was getting worse and worse. So I took myself off to try and find out if it was the flu. And I got told that it was a progression from one autoimmune disease to another, and I'd now got rheumatoid arthritis as well.
Oh my goodness.
So because my mindset was different, I decided to go home, and I just spent the next few days, even though they wanted to keep me in hospital, I refused it, and I spent the next few days just researching what I could do to heal myself at home, because I just got so fed up of taking tablet after tablet, and I wasn't getting better, I was getting worse, obviously.
Right.
So I decided I was going to change my diet. I was going to try the raw food plant-based diet. I was going to try juicing, detoxing to get everything out of my system. And so I started doing that. I was in a lot of pain. My joints were really, really swelling, everything. I couldn't literally pick any of the little ones up. And my brother came around one day because I had to call him because I'd fallen down because my knees were so swollen I couldn't get back up again.
Oh, crikey.
Yeah, so I called my younger brother and he came round. And my mum was back in Portugal at the time and I was in the UK. And he rang her actually in tears saying that I think Leanne's like killing herself. You need to tell her to go to the hospital and she won't listen. So my mum came over in a flash. She was straight over. But she actually agreed with what I explained I was trying to do. So she said, I'm going to support you. I'll give you 8 weeks. And if it doesn't get better, then you're going to have to start listening.
Right.
So my mum was an amazing support. She did all the juicing for me, looked after the kids. I was basically just in bed. I was in so much pain, but something inside me just told me that I was doing the right thing.
Right.
We'd had a holiday booked from 12 weeks from that point to South Africa, and my mum was going to cancel it, but I begged her. I said, no, please, this is what in my mind is going to get me better because I want to go on that trip.
Sure. Good.
Yeah, so I was doing the juicing, 4 weeks in bed again, but I was slowly getting out. I was able to do yoga, I was meditating, and I was starting to feel better. The colitis was clearing up, and this was all without medication. I never ever recommend that anyone throws all of it out like I did, but that was just my decision at the time.
Right.
You know, you could listen to people. I just said there wasn't anymore. And I decided to come back to Portugal with my mum because, you know, the weather and everything, the more natural foods you can get out here, organic foods. So I came back out to recuperate and I just started going from strength to strength. And I did get on that plane to South Africa. I was extremely underweight, but I got there and I had an amazing time.
Good.
I wasn't better. I still had joints aching, but I wasn't locked anymore. I was able to, you know, move around. And then I got back and I was just constantly looking for different ways to get my health better naturally.
Mm-hmm.
My business had suffered obviously because I was looking after my health. And then my mum one day found this supplement, and I didn't want to know about any supplements. I'm doing this just from anything that comes from the ground. Please don't tell me anything else.
Yeah.
But then I started testimonials from other people that suffered with the same things I did. And I thought, like, it's natural, it's raw, it's in a packet, but there's no harm in giving it a go. So I tried it, and that's what really started not only getting me better, but reversing the illnesses. So again, I went from strength to strength. My mindset was getting stronger. And when I realized there was a business attached to that, that is when when you have those aha moments, and I was like, this is what I'm meant to be doing. I really believe that I suffered all that in the past to be able to help people now.
Right.
And that keeps me going from day to day. That keeps me stronger. I no longer suffer from ulcerative colitis. That has been confirmed that it's gone. The doctors were amazed and they said you're one of those very rare cases, but I don't believe I am a rare case. I really do think that you can do it through natural healing but it's not an easy progress journey.
Do you think that's why it's a rare case, because not many people go down that route? It's not really, yeah.
I do that as well, and obviously, you know, not to get into debates now, but the doctors are never going to tell you to go down the natural route.
Right.
You know, although you do get the few of them, I have a few doctors now that actually want to know what I did and how I did it, and, you know, take it on board themselves. But a lot of them, one of them actually told me that, maybe you didn't suffer with it anyway. After 10 years of suffering that I had, I know I did. I bloody did suffer with it.
Yeah.
So now what I try and do is I help other people, not only through autoimmune disease. Obviously, autoimmune is my strength because I've suffered with it. But I help people with chronic fatigue because I suffered with the fatigue due to the illnesses. I help people with depression because I've had massive depressions in my life. I also try and help people with the mindset, just to know that they can, if they're going through the really bad relationships or the really lows, they can get out of it. And at the time, it's really hard. I've been there when people have told you that you can do it and you really don't think it's possible. But I think as long as you've got somewhere in the background that's always just there for you, or you're just watching them on something simple like Facebook, I think when it does click, you know then that you can do it, and you've been watching it without even realizing that it's sinking in.
Right.
So I'd be there for people even though it's in the background sometimes, and They might not think that I'm there, but I am.
Oh,
But yeah, basically, and that's what I do now. I really help people with the health. I help people grow themselves and their confidence. And obviously, being in network marketing, I do help people with a business, but I didn't want to restrict myself to just helping people within my business. So I help everybody really, especially people with health.
fantastic.
Yes, I just want people to know that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. I've been through, so many things that I honestly never thought. I thought that was it. My life was just meant to be miserable. But you just find that spark one day, you really do, and you think enough is enough. And then you start to learn new ways, and you start to realize that although it's hard to accept, you're kind of responsible for the things that have happened to you. And it's hard to own up to that, but until you own up to that, you kind of repeat the same cycle over and over again, just different people in different situations.
Sure.
So yeah, that's the story.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing it with us. And I'm loving watching the baby cuddles as well.
You all got baby in here.
Oh, so cute.
The really good part to my story is finally found somebody that does respect and love me properly, and that's after loving myself. I actually wrote down on a card everything I wanted in the next relationship and kind of put that to the back burner, and not long ago I actually looked back at that card, and this guy is every single thing I wrote down on the card.
Really?
Yeah, to the tiny little things of, the little things that I wrote on my card that's kind of embarrassing, but I wrote constantly like tapping me on the bum and stuff. And everything I wrote on that card he actually does. And what we have from a relationship.
Oh, yay.
Yeah, and he's amazing to my 3 other children. So yes, never ever think that you have to be treated like that, because you really don't. You do deserve somebody that's going to treat you the right way.
I was just going to say, what would your message be to somebody that is going through similar to what you've, all the different parts of what you've been through,
What I'm actually aiming to do in the future as well is put a program together to help children speak out when they're younger, because I kept the secret for coming up to 20 years, and I think holding on to a secret like that really does have massive consequences, bad consequences onto your life. And I think if I can help children realize that they can speak out and it's not their fault, then that could really impact them from a younger age.
Yeah.
So that's a want to do list as well.
That would be so valuable. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Awesome. Oh, well done, you. You've got the most amazing smile. It just lights up your whole face.
It's genuine as well. I spent so many years with a fake smile on, and now it's so genuine. It's so amazing when you finally realise that you've held on to that power all along. It really is.
Good. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I'll share the links. I'll share the links to all your pages. Sorry, Hem, what did you say?
I said sorry about all the craziness, but
that's life, isn't it? I think we need to accept that life is crazy rather than trying to pretend that it's not, because that's what makes people miserable, isn't it?
You probably see on a lot of my Facebook Live videos as well, I usually have the chaos going on in the background, because if I tried to do it when that wasn't happening, I just wouldn't do it.
Sure. Oh, well, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your story. I really appreciate that.
And I hope that's helped, and I hope it was okay.
Definitely. I really do believe that everybody's story has the ability to speak to someone and help them in their moment of need. That's the whole sort of point of the project, really. So, yeah.
I mean, if you've got anything that you want me to share on my Facebook or my Instagram to promote the Happy Glad, then I really do that as well.
That's lovely, thank you. I'll just finish the video and round it up. So if you like this video, please do hit like and subscribe, and you'll get notifications when new videos are posted. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram as well, and we'll look forward to seeing you in another episode.